Spot on, well done.
Right, okay.
Do you want to come? Sorry, do you want to come round so that he's looking a bit more towards me? That's it. That's great.
Yeah, okay. And if you just look at me, Ted, that's great.
Actually, hang on. Sorry, you're right. You're in the light now. We've got a shadow, so come a bit more towards me this way. That's better. That's better.
Okay.
Yeah, fine with me. You're right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fine. Okay, Ted. About the Krays twins coming to Newcastle, what's your version of events?
Well, I thought they could come up here. I thought they could take Newcastle over, which would never happen anyway. You know, and they were good at their own job, like what we were at our job. We were villains; they were protection people. You know, and that's the way I looked at the Krays.
Do you think you say they came up to try and take the place over? What actually happened? You know, what was the story you?
Well, the story I got, they liked getting into the nightclubs at the time. That was their way of making a living, you know. And I think they just tried to come up here, but they couldn't get their own way up here. And they were sent away from Newcastle, from the northeast. And as a matter of fact, I think they were escorted down at the time they come here. They were told to get back down to London, you know.
I mean, with regards to the Krays, do you know which clubs they went to, or?
Well, as far as I know, they went to the 69 club. In the stage door, I think they tried to get in, and the Piccadilly club. On Bath Lane at the time, you know. That's only 3 clubs I can think of, really, that I heard that had been, you know, when they came up with Newcastle.
Story about Joe Lyle basically turning them away, but he was ignorant of who they were. Did you hear that?
Yeah, well, I've heard that, like, but I mean, Joe Lyle, I know Joe years ago, and Joe was a nice fella, you know.
With, when the Krays came up to Newcastle, there's that many rumours. Some people say they stayed for a couple of days. Some people say they got.
Well, I got told to stop at Gateshead, but I mean, I don't know. I couldn't tell you that, like, you know. But I got told they were stopping at Gateshead, then they come into Newcastle, you know.
Did they come
but
up?
I know they weren't up here long.
Did they come up with a big squad of people? Do you think?
No, they'd only come up with 2. I think they'd come up themselves. Maybe they had a driver, you know, running them about, like, you know.
What about other people who tried to encroach on Newcastle? Was that basically?
Well, I've never ever known a different firm from out of Newcastle coming in and trying to take Newcastle over, because there's lads in Newcastle that wouldn't let it happen anyway. You know. I mean, at the time in the 60s, we're all stuck together, you know, at the time. And we were all like one firm, you know. And we used to help each other. But nowadays, it's not like that, you know. I mean, it's all changed from the 60s to now, 2000, you know. There's no honour amongst you as far as I'm concerned, you know.
Was it a good thing that, this collective spirit in the 60s?
Well, at least you could trust people, you know. Nowadays, pulling big jobs or whatever we're done, you know, you could hand pick them now, you know, who you could trust. But in the 60s, you could go to, I'd say 10 people, and it would be sound people, and you know, whatever we're going to do, we've done it, got away, and that was it. Nothing else was said. But nowadays, 2000, they all seem to get caught, and once they get in the jail, they're just grassing people up, you know. And that's the way I look at it, like, in life now.
Getting back onto the Krays, basically people knew them. They courted the publicity, they courted the media, which ultimately.
Oh, people knew them. I mean, they were a villain in their own way, you know. And they were dangerous men, you know. I mean, everybody knows that. But I mean, they were a different league what we were, you know. That's all I've got to say there, you know. But I mean, they were good at their job. Simple as that.
Do you know of any connections that they had up here? Obviously, the Vince Lander, I think, was has been photographed with a few times. Dennis Stafford obviously knew them as well.
Dennis Stafford knew them. Vince Landers knew them. I mean, there's I'm trying to think what else I would mention them, knew them, you know. Really knew them. I think Panda knew them, you know.
I mean, would there have been any way of maybe them working together? Do you think with people up here? Do you think people would have accepted it if they've come up with in a different way instead of trying to walk into nightclubs and as you say, like maybe he's trying to take them over?
Well, they might have done, but my point of view, they were different. They worked different to us anyway, you know. I mean, I'm not saying they couldn't. My own opinion, I didn't think they could do what I was doing. But I could be wrong, you know.
I mean, the legend, I suppose, in a sense, lives on. But I think.
Oh, the legend will always live on. I mean, they got a big name in London, and they took London over. But as far as I'm concerned, in London, mind, the main man in London was the Richardsons, who was ruling London, apart from the Krays, you know.
Did you ever come across any of these people? Have you ever, the Richardsons, Charlie Richardson?
No, well, I never. I missed them in the jail when I was in the jails, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I must admit, I've never spoken to any of them, mind, you know, in person, you know. But I've heard a lot about them, you know. And I've been in London myself, you know, and I've met different people. Barbara Windsor, Ronnie Net, I mean, there's a few people I've mentioned that I have met down there, you know.
Yeah.
But as I say, they just want a different league to me, the Krays, you know.
The whole thing with London, I suppose, is like it's been, there's been hundreds of books written, there's been, hundreds of television documentaries made, and Newcastle, the crime fraternity has always been very, very quiet and very silent. There's never been anything, maybe it's the odd book here, the odd book there where there's a reference, but, I think, you struggle to find a book about Newcastle's, crime scene.
True, yeah.
Why do you think that is? Do you think that we're, we've gone about our jobs quietly and...
Well, that's what I think, yeah. It's never really happened in Newcastle, has it? About talking about Newcastle itself, plus different villains and that, you know what I mean? In the 60s, I mean, there was a lot of activity went here, I mean, in the 60s in Newcastle, right through the 80s and 90s, you know? There's much went up in jobs up here than what there was in London, you know? What
was Newcastle in the 1960s like for you? Because obviously as a young person myself, looking back into the...
Well, I enjoyed myself. Really enjoyed myself, I was making plenty of money at the time, you know. And I loved the nightlife. And all my friends who I associated with, we all went to nightclubs. And that was, well, I just gone around nightclubs and that, you know. Stage Door, Piccadilly, 69 Club, Michael's Club on Northumberland Street, you know, just all over. The Tatler Club, you know, all different clubs.
What was an average night out like for you then? What would your night be like?
What do you mean average night out? You mean just...
What time would you start and where would you go first?
We'd start about, I would say about 7 o'clock. And up in the nightclubs, we would have 2 in the morning. Sometimes 4:30, all depends, you know.
Nightclubs now, obviously, like just,
Well, nightclubs now is like, it's all disco clubs really, isn't it, you know?
Loud music and...
loud music. There's not a nightclub really in Newcastle, like you can call it a nightclub. That's got proper live entertainment. Now we've got to go to the arena to find all this, you know? But nightclubs then, you had proper singers and everything, you know?
Who were the best acts that you saw?
Tom Jones was one of them, like. So I like the Tom Jones, like, you know. Glenn Campbell come up one time. I enjoyed him, you know. different artists like that, you know.
Right.
They were good at the time.
Can you remember much about the clubs? You know, you mentioned the Dolce Vita and the 69 Club. Can you remember much about them? There's not a great deal of photographs of these venues. Johnny Heenan was kind enough to lend us some photographs.
Johnny Heenan.
Lent us some photographs of the outside, so we've now actually got a photograph of the actual Dolce Vita sign and all that. So we know what the exterior looked like, but the interior is still a bit of a mystery other than the glass floor. Well, can you remember much about the clubs and what they were like? Were they? You know?
Well, the Dolce Vita, when you walked in, the main doors, before you went, when you went upstairs, you had your casino on the left-hand side, then you went through past the fire into the main room. You know, it was a good club. And the Piccadilly Club, that was a nice club, you know. Piccadilly Club was a good club. 69 Club, really nice club, you know. And Joe Liley, he made he spent a few quid on the club, and he made a good club with it. And all the lads used to go to the 69 Club at the time, you know, and it was a really good club.
Did you used to get in? Did you used to pay to get in, Ted, or did you?
No, usually I got in for nothing, like, you know. A few of the lads got in for nothing, like, you know what I mean? We did, like, you know, because they knew we were going to spend money anyway, you know. Spend a few quid, he knew that. As a matter of fact, there was one night I spent that much money up there, I had to borrow money off Joe Lane to get some more champagne. Aye, Joe was a good fella, Joe, like. I met him a few weeks ago, Joe, at Thomas.
Did you?
I was talking to him, yeah, a few, Northumberland Street. Aye. Nice fella. In the Piccadilly Club, I used to lie there. Well, Bob Monkhouse used to do that, you know. Met him, he was alright, you know. Smashing fella. Dennis used to get in there, Dennis Stafford used to get in there, you know. Bobby Stern used to get there at the time, you know. Bobby used to pop in there at the time, because Bobby used to be the bouncing on at the stage door club, and I used to walk along there and have a pint along there, you know. But that used to be his main place. Bobby's was the stage door. I call it used to be the bird cage, didn't it?
Yeah.
But they were good clubs. They were good clubs.
The time you mentioned about being in jail for a small spell. The time you were in jail, you know, was there a respect for the Geordies? Do you think there's a?
Oh, you saw being respect for Geordies in the jail, yeah. Aye. Everybody got on with everybody in there, like, you know. And people from Liverpool and different people I met from different parts of the country, the respect were like, you know, we respected them, you know, at the same time. The only time you weren't respected in the jails is when you grass somebody up, you took levies with sex case, or you took levies with people. And they didn't like in the jail even people taking levies, you know. They didn't like, you know. But as I say, I didn't like the day jail, so I only done a few little sentences, you know, and I was very happy.
No, I bet. The whole, you know, with regards to that word respect, it's a big thing, and for me, there's a lack of it these days in this era. You know, what changed that? Why was there a change? You know, 40 years ago, why is it such, you know, a difficult thing now? You know,
well,
respect?
I think what it is now, I think it's with the drugs. That's I blame the drugs, you know. There's some of them they run the book in the drugs or drug in the cellar walling. Half the time they don't know what they're doing anyway, you know. And they've just lost the respect themselves, you know.
Were drugs a big thing in the 60s?
No, you would get drugs in the 60s, but it wasn't a big thing. It wasn't a big thing, you know. I mean, there was still drugs on the boat, but not as much as what there is now, like, you know. I mean, nowadays it's just like walking in a shop and getting drugs in it. You get them that easy, you know. But I mean, it wasn't them days in the 60s. I mean, you could get it if you wanted it, but no, you can get it anywhere, can't you? You know, you can get it anywhere.
Johnny Heenan, obviously we mentioned him about film Johnny, and you know, great interview with Johnny. What do you remember about Johnny?
Oh, Johnny, he's a good fella, John. Good singer and all. I like his singing. I met Johnny not long ago, about 3 weeks ago. I always have a bit talk with John. He's a very nice fella. Very nice fella. He was with Julie about 3 weeks ago. On Northumberland Street, but I see Johnny nearly all the time.
Albert's Barrett, the meeting point.
The meeting point, Albert says it's Barrett. Yeah, that's right. Aye, Albert.
I'm just trying to think, is there anything else we need to cover? I mean, is that
It's
you
brilliant.
want?
There's one thing I'd want to
Go on.
add. I know you mentioned that you'd heard about Gateshead and about that's where they stayed in Gateshead.
Yeah.
And obviously it's hearsay, but do you know where they stayed in Gateshead? Was it a house? Was it a hotel? Was it...
Well, I think it was a hotel at the time, you know.
Don't know which one.
I couldn't tell you which
No.
one. It was a big hotel, just you come over the bridge.
Uh-huh.
On the right hand side. But
Swallow Hotel.
Could have been a Swallow Hotel.
Yeah.
Could have been a Swallow.
Okay.
Yeah.
It just adds another sort of dimension
Oh,
to that
yes,
story.
yeah.
Do you know as well? I mean, we're hoping to get Davy Finlay on camera, you know, eventually.
Well,
We've spoken-
Davey, I was just going to say, Davey's a good pal of mine, you know, and do you want to try again? I had a Davey, because Davey...
We've met him, we've spoken to him, and he just wouldn't go on film because he says his
Aye.
tooth isn't fixed, so he
Aye.
wouldn't. But he's...
Davey knew them, you know.
Davy seems to play an integral part in the sense that
Aye,
he's allegedly the man who signed him into the club in the first place.
Yeah, yeah.
Because he happened to be signed
Aye.
into nightclubs at the time.
Aye,
But
Davey
he was
knew
also
them,
the
you
man
know.
who walked them down to the station.
Yeah. But you want to try again, will you, Davey? Because Dave's a nice lad, Dave, you know. As I see David now and again, and every time I see him, we'll have a drink together, you know. Lovely fella.
You know, you said that you know, collectively there was a togetherness up here. You know, how did that work? Because obviously you're all in little areas. It's a funny area to this day because you've got different factions in Newcastle, different factions in Gateshead, and what have you. But like, how did you all collectively pull together? Was it just because you know, if the Krays had come up and tried to take the place, well, you know, they came up to take the place over, you have you know, collectively everyone makes a stand together. How does that work? You know, is it just because you see each other on the social scene?
We weren't far away from each other at the time, you know. And I mean, they couldn't just, I mean, you know, I know who they were and what they're capable of doing to you, you know. But they would never ever get away with harming anybody up here, like, you know. Because there's one thing I can say about the Geordies, they're all stuck together. And at that time they were all stuck together, mind. You know, and there would have been trouble, a lot of trouble, you know.
Was there any incidents that you can remember of, like, other people coming to Newcastle and trying the same?
No,
No.
I haven't, no.
No.
I've never known anybody come to Newcastle causing loads of trouble, like, you know.
You know, you're sitting now, you know, you've had a good life, you know, you've done well and you haven't been in jail much, which is, you know, a sign of success, really. But, like, you know, is there anything you would change?
No, not really. I enjoyed my life, you know, through being a young lad, and what I was doing was exciting, and at the end of the day I got rewards and I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it.
What makes you choose that path? What do you think, Ted? Was it the adrenaline rush? Was it the money?
I think at the time, when I first thought I was a bit short of money, I must admit. And then when I done my first couple of things, you know, I got a big lump of money and I says, oh, this is a life for me, you know. And then it went on from there, you know. And it went on from there, and as I say, I just enjoyed myself. Went away, went abroad and that, and me and Kenny went abroad, you know, Tenerife, and met people across there, and different people, different firms from London, from across there, you know. And it was nice, it was good.
Do you think it's possible to do that these days? You see all these big heists, and you know people attempting to stick jewels from the O2, and you know all these, the Millennium Dome, that kind of thing. Those kind of high-profile robberies where basically people are trying to go for one big thing. Do you think you can do it now? Because in the 60s there was lack of security. There wasn't the cameras you have now.
I know what you're saying. Well, the more advanced they want it. I must admit that, like, you know, the more advanced, but nothing's impossible. That's the way I look at it.
Because the biggest criminals now to me are people in suits, you know, who've got access to computers and siphoning money. People who are at the top of.
Aye, well, you know. I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that.
That's great.
I wouldn't say that. So. All I can say, I enjoyed myself, and I made plenty, and enjoyed it, and that's all I've got to say.
That's good. That's good enough for me.
You try to identify what your school is doing.
Yeah.
Don't I switch it off? Yeah, switch it off.
It'll be alright. We'll just be. We'll go with it.
I'm ready when you are.
Okay, Johnny. First of all, the Kray twins and their visit to Newcastle. Can you explain your version of events?
Yes, I can explain the complete version of the events. I knew the Kray twins in London. We were walking down to London, actually. Never associated with them. Didn't particularly like them. But they first arrived in Newcastle. The first place they came to was Billy Bottom's club. They came up with then the lightweight champion of England, Tommy McGovern. They came in, somebody signed them into Billy Bottom's club, and they came upstairs, they sat down, and they had a couple of bottles of champagne, just looked around. What they actually came up for was to see the strength of casinos. When they looked, they found that the biggest bet you could have in those days was about 5 shillings, because they charged you 6 minutes to have a bet with. And they had about, in those days, there were about 5, 6, 7 zeros on the way. It's called players' pool. That's how all the nightclub owners became millionaires while the gambling was on. When the gambling finished, the clubs all nosedive because you can't afford to pay £1,000 for cabarets as they were doing in those days. They then left Billy Bottom's club. Now, rang Joe Lyle's club to tell them, thought they might be coming up to his place. Joe wasn't at the club at the time. He went in and somebody told him, he says, "Do you mind, Jed? You're not members of the club. Do you mind drinking and leaving the club?" To which Reggie Krays said to him, "What's your name?" He says, "Joe Lyle." He said, "I own the club." He says, "My name's Reggie Krays. I won't forget your name." He said, and Joe said to him, "I won't forget yours either, because you have to be a member, and the club squad will be here very shortly." To which they did leave without any violence whatsoever. They then went down to places like the Birdcage, etc., etc. They came up on the pretext of being theatrical agents, incidentally. That was their way of getting detection money. And they booked in acts at La Dolce Vita, which were absolutely useless, and getting up to £700-800 in those days, a lot of money. And then, wherever they went, there was a man here who was in charge of the crime squad from Annick down to Newcastle, I believe, called Jack Vinton. Inspector Jack Vinton. Well, he had about 20 plainclothes men following him everywhere, and they knew this. And they only stayed in Newcastle for about 3 days. And I think they realised that the gambling was not to the extent, as it became later on in the years, to make it worth the while coming up here. Because at the time they were also running a place called Esmeralda's Barn, which was their club, the Krays had there. And they just used to move in clubs and take them over. But they caused no trouble here whatsoever. It was just their name which alarmed everyone.
Tommy McGovern was with them. Was there anybody else with them?
Tommy McGovern, yes.
Anyone else stand
yes,
out?
they had the man who was the legal man, as they call him, Sam Lederman. Another one, Patsy Gallagher, another big giant of a man. The rest were just, slaves to the Krays, you can say.
I mean, in your recollection, is that the only time they came up? Because the rumours that go around the city and some of the photographs that you see suggest they maybe came up more than once.
They came up with Joe Lee when they booked Joe Lee and they got to be for £1,000. Now Joe Lee could do nothing. He just shook a few hands and took a few pictures with him. There's several pictures knocked about of Joe Lee and the Krays from the Dolce Vita. I have several pictures of the Dolce Vita, of the acts that appeared there, and I'll give you them. I have several, got a whole album actually.
It's brilliant.
Norman, before he died, left him for me. That was one of the partners, Norman. And they were lovely boys. There was three partners, Norman, David and Marcus. There's only one alive now, that's Marcus. General had a very good year in show business.
I mean, you know, when they arrived in Newcastle, did they?
Sorry, step this way just a little bit so that that's it.
When they arrived in Newcastle, did they find their own way, or did the Levy brothers, as suggested,
no,
did they?
no,
I mean, the story of picking them up in Rolls Royces at Central Station.
Not at all. No. They took the taxis wherever they went to, or somebody drove them there, some local. One who wanted to be involved with them would drive them there. And they caused no trouble in this town whatsoever. They didn't threaten anybody. They had their own ways. They were going to become theatrical agents. And putting £50 acts in and charging £500. I can even give you the pictures of some of the acts they put in for adult
I mean, so you know, the story of them getting turned away and put onto the train is just one of folklore.
It just what it is. They just couldn't. They went around, saw the situation, and left. It wasn't worth the while. It wasn't. And then later on, it would have been if they waited another 2 or 3 years, when they made gambling legal in every club. Instead of having to play as pool, it had to be 1-0 on the wheel. Then it became a situation where Michael's was an English club. That was one of the first clubs to open, Michael's. And then gambling became very big up here. But it was even bigger down in town. Oh, yes.
The stories which circulate about gangland in Newcastle, was it as ruthless and as brutal as London, or was it just an up and coming gangland at the time? I mean, you were an entertainer, you and obviously owner of particular venues.
I never owned them. I only worked for them. Yeah.
Were you did you see a lot of that? Was it with the Krays visiting you? Did you see a lot of the local gangland?
No, it's quite a myth. I mean, there'd be disagreements in clubs, they'd have a fight, but there's no stabbing or shooting or anything like that. It's a myth actually about becoming gangland.
With regards to like the clubs, I mean, obviously the ones we're particularly interested in are the Dolce Vita. First of all, what was the Dolce Vita like?
That was the best club in England, bar none, and all of the acts that came there. I mean, the fact that Bob Monkhouse did a 6-week tour there, and he was the best actor in the business at the time. He came here and he became the contest. And he worked for very big money. I mean, I remember David ringing up, and he'd gone to try and bring Liberace over. But he did bring Jane Russell, Jane Mansfield, Dick Haynes, Mel Torme, Billy Exxon, all superstars in America. And well, can you imagine? Work it out. They were paying as much as £1,000, £1,500 a week to acts in those days, which would be the equivalent of about £25,000, maybe more, £30,000 now. Yeah.
Okay, so just to say Joe Lyle. Joe
Lyle was the first man to have bunny girls in this country. He got sued by Hugh Hefner. And he came out successful on the whole thing. He was the very first, because, as I said, we'd seen them in Vegas. And then the next one at Bunny Girls was Billy Bottom's club, who actually Billy, fine man he was, bookmaker. I opened that club as well. But the first club to open up here was Michael's. The second club was the Carlson Club, which Joe Lyle owned in North Shields. And the Cabaret then was the top comedian in Britain, Jimmy James. He was the Cabaret. And we were the first to have a quartet, because they usually had an organ player or a piano player. We took a quartet in there, and then we shipped them up the 69 when he bought the 69.
Yeah, back to the Dolce Vita. What was the internal like?
The internal, well, it was frequented by. You had to be dressed to get in the Dolce Vita. In those days, you had to have a tie, collar and tie. You couldn't go in like we are now. was the same at 69. So much so that at the 69, we had special ties made with 69 on them. Now, the reason it was 69 dispensable, despite all the reasons, is it's actually on the A69. Despite all the speculation about it.
I mean, basically, what was your average night out in Newcastle?
The average night out in Newcastle was, for the first year, every nightclub was full. But taking you back to those days, a bottle of champagne, a bottle of Moët Chandon was £2.50. And that's what all the high flyers used to come in and drink. And as I say, it was what you hear about the hooliganism is mythical. Yeah, there were clubs where there was trouble would start, and they had to employ bouncers to take them out, but very, very rare.
I mean, you know, your average night out these days, you start at 6 o'clock. People are plastered by 9 o'clock. What was your night out? What was an average night out like for a person in the 60s?
9 o'clock till 1. Just come there 8:30, 9 o'clock, and that was it. And the cabaret, you'd put the cabaret around about 9:30. They would dance. They would do everybody. It was live entertainment. That was the difference. And no matter how many of these karaoke singers and these backing track players, they can't do what live bands do. And they were dancing. It was a fabulous night out for them. They had never been used to it up here in nightclubs.
What was going back onto Joe Lyle? I mean, what was Joe's background? What was Joe?
Well,
like?
Joe was a very, very successful racehorse owner. He had the best horses in the country at one time. He sold them for a lot of money. He won several races, met the Queen, and all sorts like that. But Joe was a very successful businessman. Everything he did. Before that, he was on the motor train. He had about 10 garages. And he ran a very strict ship, actually. He employed heavies to keep heavies out, because being in the West End, you would expect a few coming in, but they accepted that they couldn't get in and finish.
I mean, any of the doormen that you can remember as in particular?
I'll tell you two doormen right now, which were both very good boxers, very, very good. Manny Burgo, senior, at Billy Botto's, and George, who was a middleweight champion. Who was that middleweight who used to work Billy Botto's? George from North Shields.
Georgie,
Manny Burgo senior.
Manny Burgo, Georgie could fight a bit.
Yeah, good middleweight. And I forget his second name, but George was his first name. Two heavyweight boxers, and he employed them to be at reception. You had to sign, and if they didn't like it, sorry, you're not a member, you can't come in, and there's nobody argued with them.
Like during the process of making the programme, we've heard a lot about different characters. We've met some of them and interviewed them. Bobby Snowden's name comes up quite a lot.
Yeah, Bobby a gentleman. Always a gentleman as far as I'm concerned. Never caused any trouble where we went to. I'll be very truthful about that.
Obviously, we've also got other recollections of people's stories. And Tommy Hallett, Paddy Hallett, as he's known now, obviously has a recollection about the Krays coming up as well. But he was also led to believe a doorman in his day. I mean, do you remember Paddy?
No, I know Tommy Hallett. Yes, I know him, but I can't remember him being a doorman anywhere. I can't remember him ever being a doorman.
With regards to the police, and you touched on Jack Vinton. And having people following the Krays around, were the local police involved in that, or was it just the
plainclothes?
Yeah,
but recognisable. I mean, when you're in that other side, you soon saw some out. Especially when you see them follow you wherever you're going to go to. Soon, everywhere they went, they were tailed.
You already touched on a few of the names as well, but I mean, who's probably the biggest star you worked with, and who was the most enjoyable person that you worked with up in the north?
The biggest star up here that I enjoyed working with was Ingeborg Humperdinck. I worked with him. He was called Jerry Dorsey in those days.
Right.
In fact, I had to go and finish a week's cabaret for him at the Playboy in Seaham. There was another club that opened up in Seaham Harbour. And they paid him off, and I went and finished the week for him. That's my claim to fame. But the biggest ones that I worked with up here were probably Dan Adores, Ducane's, Meltome, all big American recorded sales. Al McCogan. I mean, I've furnished with a lot of pictures of those.
Yeah.
I've got a whole big album of them, all from the Dolce Vita days, all taken at La Dolce Vita. It was a glass floor there. And Tommy Cooper, when he came up there, he deliberately dropped he deliberately dropped the big ball and it went straight through the floor. He did it as a gag. He told me he was going to do it, actually. And he apologized and said he would pay, but Tommy would pay for nothing. A lot of fun he was, Tommy. He'd come and he'd ring you up and say, I'll be in the club now. He says, I only drink champagne, I don't pay for it. They were Tommy's, but funniest man that ever lived.
The nightclub that Bob Monkhouse obviously had an affection with it. Was anybody open changes?
No, he owned it.
Finish, sorry.
All right, okay, with the club.
That tells you more than half.
Yes, I'll tell you all about that one as well.
It's only 11:30 in it, so right, okay, yeah. Bob Monkhouse opened
He
the
owned
club.
a club along with Emma Capely, and his partner was a man called Ronnie Markham. You heard that name before?
Yes,
He went to South Africa afterwards, and he died there. He used to drop down dead every night, killing him, hanging himself. It was a mythical thing, but he did that. He owned that club Changes with a company called Empire Catering. It went bankrupt after a short period of time, and then that was taken over by Vince Landor. Does that name ring any bells? Vince Landor and Bill Thompson. Not Diamond Bill as we call him, not TMC, but Bill Thompson used to be a boxer, came up here from London and ran a business. A very nice man he was. Buster Thompson's name was, but he's been dead for 7 years now. But he was a nice guy. And Michael Lavaglio. He was a gentleman. And when I say I'm talking about a gentleman man, I can never imagine him becoming a murderer. Never imagine him becoming a murderer.
There's a lot of air and mystery about Vince Landor.
Yes.
Obviously, you know, the
Yes.
man is very low profile. Very rarely see anything.
Well, he's not here now.
Not here now, abroad, obviously. But I mean, you know, what was Vince Landor's story in Newcastle?
Well, Vince Landor came up here and he was tremendously successful because he put the banders on. You were allowed 2 in every club, but he had 200 clubs. And there was a lot of paying going on, obviously.
Thank you.
And that's why the Krays came up here as well, to have a look at the empire he had set up. And they were trying, but they decided after 2 or 3 days up here it wasn't worth a while.
Are you thinking probably they were trying to get a bit of Vince's money as well in the bandits?
Well, I mean, of course they were. They were trying to take over Vince's business, actually.
And he was quite he was associated with them, to be fair.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. He'll admit that. But he was terrified of them also.
And because of what he'd seen them do, possibly. In
Well,
London.
because of their reputation. I mean, as I said, I never saw anything they did. But they had a reputation for being very vicious boys. But as I said, I've never seen them in any trouble whatsoever.
Yeah.
Not causing trouble. And I do believe they kept them so it became. They wouldn't go to the general public. They'll frighten you and take a business off you or things like that. But they wouldn't go to the general public and pick on this one, that one, the other. That's my honest opinion of it.
Obviously, like the predecessor to the Krays, you know,
Spot.
Billy Hill and Jack Spot.
Well,
You know,
I knew Jack Comer very, very well. Very well.
What did you think of Jack?
I thought he was a gentleman. A lovely man. I know his wife also, Colleen.
And how did he come across them? Was it when you were performing in London?
And now when I was working in London, yes, he was looking after us. Actually, you know, at the time I was an auctioneer, and I was working in Petticoat Lane, and you had to pay the rent to Jack. And that was it.
And that, you know, you were happy to do that. Everyone was.
Of course. Of course, he was one of the chaps. You know, if you didn't pay, you didn't work. That was the answer.
What was the? I mean, was there a big difference in the two areas? Newcastle, obviously, a very working class city, but obviously London, the streets were paved with gold. The old stories. Was it quite like that in London in the 60s?
No, there was a lot of poverty in London also. But if you worked, you got money in London, the same as you do anywhere. Same with these boys do here. These guys here, they work every day, so they're entitled to get money.
In London, obviously, I've asked you the question about Newcastle. Who did you work with in London? I mean, you must have worked with some big names down there, and alongside some big names, and come across some very very famous people.
Yes. Just a moment, I'm trying to get more work with down there. I don't even mean too much now. When I was working there, I worked in a place called the Blue Angel down there, and they used to come every night and work for. I worked in the Mandrake Club as well, which was a club in Soho, and I worked in a gypsy band. I had to put a handkerchief on my head. I was 22, 23 then, and you got £3 each, and a bowl of spaghetti and French bread. That was your whack. And they used to come in there. He used to come in there regularly for the same thing. Lonnie Donegan, when he was first starting. Who else used to come in there? Lonnie. Ackerbilk. They used to come in there. And then I met them again on the circuit up here when they all came up here. There's a lot of clubs to work up here, There was actually 11 venues on the Tyneside alone in the city virtually.
That tight. So I need to grab another one.
I mean, one of the stories is about the Krays coming up here and looking after Billy Daniels on the club circuit. I mean, can you tell us what Billy was like?
It was an associate of the Krays called Sam Letterman. He looked after the legal affairs. He wasn't a lawyer, but he seemed to be very well versed in legal affairs. And he accompanied Billy up here. And I think Billy stayed at the Royal Turk's Head Hotel. It was a good hotel in those days. And he always carried a revolver. You can take that for, it was a pearl handle thing. It was more or less a lady's gun, virtually. But he used to associate with. He liked associating with these guys, And he's what we would say a man's man. A big star, big star.
And what kind of stuff did Billy Daniels sing? What was he known for?
Well, he had two big hits with number one. It went to Jezebel, and he used to do all these western things as well, Cool Water. But he was a very, very good cabaret act. Very, very good cabaret act. He could diverse and become a cabaret singer or a country western singer. He was very, very good. Excellent. And I think that was one of the record weeks they had at La Dolce Vita. I think it was a record, yeah. It was always full when Billy Daniels was on.
Excellent. So he came up quite regularly then as well?
No, he only came up, he was only on one tour up here as far as I can gather. Another tremendous act, he was English and he died long before his time, was Dickie Valentine. He used to be a vocalist with Ted Heath. And he became a big star in Australia, came back, and he worked at Botto's, he worked at the 69, he worked at most of the clubs up here. But a tremendous act, a lovely boy, and he was going to a venue in Cardiff, and he had a car crash and got killed. That was Dickie Valentine. He was a big star. I'm trying to think of the big stars who, well, you could meet them every day in life up here. See them walking about the town.
What about yourself? I mean, your own career. What was your, I mean, obviously you've already touched on a few of the things you did younger.
I just wanted to sing songs. I love Newcastle. That's the answer. I didn't want to live in London. Hated London to finish. Went all around the world, virtually very well. Never went out to Australia, places like that, but I went to America. I remember doing a night in Los Angeles, and it was on the way back from Vegas. We'd stopped off in Los Angeles, and the band there was a guy from England who knew me. He says, come up and do a few numbers. At the time, Little Green Apples was number 1. And we can always go back to that because Joe Lyle got to start dancing, had a pair of sand shoes on in those days. That would be the pretty early 60s.
What kind of songs did you sing? What was your?
I sing all the songs by Tony Bennett. I only sing good songs. To me, I couldn't tell you one pop artist that I like. And I mean that. I cannot tell you one that I have an old saying. When live music finished, when Bill Healy came up here with the Comets, you see, you're all young enough to be in the rock and roll era. I never went on for the Beatles or anything like that, but I liked people like the Ivy League and the Freshmen, them groups, Four Aces from America. Worked with them as well. They came over here. They were all in films. They were big enough to be films. They had a number 1 all over the world with a hit called Lover's Many Splendid Things. And they had a number 1 with that.
Are you still performing today, Johnny?
Yes. I'm at Louis the last Monday of the month, and whenever the phone rings, I'll go and sing. I hope to be singing as long as Al Martino, who just died quite recently. I worked with him as well, Al Martino. He died last week, 84. I don't divulge my age, but I'm old.
Do you still charge the same now as you charged in the 60s?
No.
I was going to try and get you on the tube, Johnny.
Of course not.
Brilliant. Is there anything you can think of?
I always use live, and they've all got to be grade 8 top musicians for me to work with them because they've got to know what I'm doing and what they're doing, and I've got to know what they're doing, But
it's one thing I'd like to know. I'd like you to ask us about what Eric said, because Eric's not been mentioned. Was he there?
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And Eric claimed that he sort of said, "Look, it's not worth it. Go home." Was that sort of the
was
impression?
this Eric Burden?
Eric Mason. He basically, I mean, he could be one of those people you were talking about when when the Krays came up. One of those people who he maybe didn't know in the background.
No, I didn't know Eric Mason.
But Eric has quite a recollection about coming up here, and he gives a fairly accurate account, and he mentions the 3. He mentions the 3 days that were up here, which seems quite it falls into place with yours.
Yes.
He says that they had a situation at the hotel which was quite embarrassing. Which
Station Hotel?
He said whether they had to leave the hotel in a hurry because Ronnie had been caught in bed with one of the staff by the hotel manager.
I never heard that.
Right.
And I think I would have heard it if we had. I definitely never heard that.
So
Staying in a little gaff at Jasmine, I think, one of the little bed and breakfast.
No, they stayed at the Station Hotel, they did. Krays.
Well, it might have been another occasion.
Definitely stayed at the Station Hotel.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. But I mean, I think Eric's recollection's quite strong. He was up here at the weekend, but sadly he's not in the best of health. And
I know nothing at all about that.
Yeah,
I haven't even heard that rumour before.
You haven't heard that rumour?
No.
It's just one of those things, isn't it? Just countless rumours. And I mean, were you aware probably as early on? Probably just final question. Once the Krays had been and gone, and this incident happened with Joe Lyle, were you aware of the local people starting to put a story around that this had happened and that had happened?
Of course. I mean, Joe Lyle in his ignorance went and said, he said that I can remember the story easily. I mean, I had rang them up to say that they were coming up to 69, and Joe wasn't there at the time because I'd left the 69. I was wearing Billy Bottoms, and he came in. Who are they? He went across and he said, "Gentlemen, have your drinks." As I said before, have your drinks and leave. He said, "What's your name?" He told me. That was it. And it was ignorance is bliss. Because he did have the guts to go and order them out.
Who was on the door there as well, by the way?
The name of that house was George Casson. I was trying to think of the other box of people. They both ranked. They were in. That was in Billy Bottom's club.
Who was working on the door at the?
On the door.
At the 69 that night when Joe Lyle was there.
Well, there was most of his friends. They were not very well known actually. Not for being. I know Jimmy Walker, who was about 8.5 stone, but he could fight.
Yeah.
Jimmy Walker, he's been dead some years now. another guy called Billy Hall, Butcher Bill as he was known in those days. He worked there. They were doormen there. But as I say, there was never, you know, it's been magnified by everybody as the years go by. They magnify stories. There was rarely any weird. I only ever saw 2 fights at the 69 at the time I was there. And I was there for 3 years. And the only fight, well, we used to stop them on the stairs actually, the fights at Billy Bottas was twice in the years I was there.
We spoke, again, just another thing came round there, we spoke to Davy Finlay, we haven't got him on camera yet, because he wanted to have a shave and get his tooth fixed.
Yes.
But Davy's been a laugh, if nothing else. And again, he's one of them who, he'll tell you the truth, again, pretty similar off camera, the story you've told about Joe Lyle, but Davy's also said that he was at the station when the Krays left. So it's again interesting. Did you know Davy quite well?
I know David very well.
Yeah. The character.
Quite a character, definitely. I believe it was David Finlay who signed him in the club into the 69. I think it was him, actually. He got the blame for it.
Classic. Okay. Yeah, good. I think that's good. That was a nice little gem to finish with, actually. Hard part.
But Albert.
Nice serving somebody in.
I'll bring that album down from the Dolce Vita. I'll give you the book of the fees they were getting,
right? Oh,
and
fantastic.
what they were returning on the book.
Fantastic.
Brilliant.
You know, what they were returning on the book. Well, I'll tell you the real fees they were getting because some of them were on maybe £500. They've got down £50 for the week.
So easy to miss a zero off.
Of course it is.
Right. Just you mentioned about Joe Lyle going into the fight promoting
Yes.
again.
Well, we were keen followers of boxing. I wanted to see, we were going to sign him up actually, but we lost the promotion. He never got hit. He didn't want to get hit. He was a good boxer.
Yeah.
All the shades were good fighters.
Yes. Anyhow, we applied and Joe got the license to promote at St James's. The week we got the license, we gone around all the amateur ranks looking at fighters, looking at pros who we could sign up to fight. They closed St James's Hall down, so we're promoters who never got a fight off the road.
Excellent, that's a great story.
We were two boxing promoters who never got a fight off the road.
I followed in your footsteps. I managed to get mine off the road anyway.
Yeah.
Albert, do you want to do a bit? Do you want to do a quick bit about the 60s before we go? While we're here? Do you want to do a quick chat?
He can't remember the 60s, mate.
I was
only just.
He
He wasn't allowed in the 69 or the Dutch beat.
I was 17. I tell you the story. I was 17 and I was with all the chaps. Johnny and everybody knew me. So they used to get me into the clubs before I was old.
That's right.
But so that's how I really, the Emersons, the 69 Club, Bordeaux's, and a fantastic time.
I forgot to mention Emerson's. I was there.
Emerson's was the
I owned that.
Waterstones down the corner there. Fantastic.
Yeah, downstairs.
That was a club.
But atmosphere,
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Unbelievable.
Atmosphere was fantastic.
The owners were Peter Longstaff and Maisie Turtle.
Correct, yeah. Correct.
And they used to play Shem and Defer there.
Correct.
That was how they got their money.
Well, a very small gaffer was, you know, how many people did you get?
80, 90.
Right. But compared to the big clubs, it was small.
That's right.
But nice, very, very
90.
nice.
We went to sign him up, and he's a stylist. This lad, he never likes getting hit. Frankie,
Never had a mark, did it?
no, Frankie, his brother was different. He liked to fight.
Frankie liked to fight.
And
Either way,
as I said, we got the promoter's license, and then the close St James's Hall. We were promoters without a fight.
66 when they closed it, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Well, I was involved that, so that won the World Cup.
Correct.
Any recollections of the 60s, Albert, for you? It was good.
Oh,
Was it a good time?
It was a good time for me because I was boxing at the time and going to the clubs and meeting nice people and, you know, I mean, fantastic time.
I wish I could have them back.
Compared to nowadays, I mean,
different class. People in them days, especially our kind of people that had good principles, didn't they? You know what I mean? There was guidelines. Today there's no guidelines. But any of the villains today, it's just, you know, they don't, well, I'm saying any of the villains, a lot of the young villains, they just do anything they want to do, don't they?
Yes. There's no.
In our day it was different, you know, you had certain areas that you didn't go. I think it was better.
You didn't do those things either.
You know, you had to have respect.
you get this impression of the 1960s from the London perspective, with the craze of this glam, like the glamour, the celebrity and gangster walk hand in hand. Was that true in Newcastle as well?
Not at all. They came up, they kept themselves. And obviously the local terrorways at the time, the people that you were talking about before, they wanted to latch on to them.
Of course
They wanted to latch on. And
it's like a movie star, they wanted to be seen with it.
wanted to be seen with the latched on, but the Krays never tolerated them. They were here for 3 days and left.
That's all, yeah.
I was telling the boys, actually, it was Jack Vinton who tailed them everywhere.
Yeah, Superintendent Jack Vinton.
Yeah.
Well, it may not be on one of those,
That wasn't the Fox, was it? The other guy was called the Fox, was it? Which one was called the Fox? Johnson.
Brian Johnson.
Brian Johnson.
He became the chief constable of Blackburn.
But a fair geezer, if he nicked you, that was it.
Very fair. They
Didn't put anything in your pocket or anything, you know. Straight man.
The law were very straight then, actually.
You'll have heard all the stories, Albert, about the Krays coming to Newcastle over the years, I suppose, on the barrack.
Well, because I remember I was about 17 when they came up. And I used to use the clubs at the time, the Birdcage, which was now the Stage Door, and Johnny's place over Bordeaux's in 69 Club. I was always there, you know what I mean, as a kid. And I remember, I don't know if I was there the night that they came up, but I remember being told that Lily had plenty of bottles, and he said, look, you're not getting in. And
No, they got in.
They did get in.
They got in and they were sitting drinking champagne.
Right.
And Joe used to arrive a bit late. And he came in, who are they? And, well, they're from London. He says, who signed them in? David Finlay, I believe, signed them in. That was what I was told. And he said, well, you have to leave, gentlemen. Drink up and leave. And Reggie Kray said to him, what's your name? He says, Joe Lyon. What's yours? He says, Reggie Kray. Well, Joe was, ignorance is bliss, you know. He said, well, would you mind drinking and leaving because
Sure, he didn't know the strength then.
Well, of course not. But he did order them out of the club and they left without any trouble. Just Reggie, I think it was Reggie, I'm not even quite sure now. I think it was Reggie. He said, I won't forget your face, and Joe said, I won't forget you either. End of the story.
Sure.
And that was the end of the story. But Joe had the bottle to go and say, you're not allowed in.
Did the Krays mean anything to either of you, though?
Well, I knew the Krays from town.
Did it mean anything to you, Albert, that name, when you heard it as a 17-year-old?
Yeah, sure, you know, I mean, my people came from the east end of London, originally my land, so, you know, you were brought up with people like the Krays and the Richardsons, you knew about them. I mean, part of our world, you know what I mean, knowing these people, you know, and as far as I know, they were well got in certain quarters, so that was it, wasn't it?
Well, so much so that they had a very high minister, and they were told, didn't they, that Robert Boothby, he was lots of rumours about what affairs he was having, and
when you hear good stories about the Krays and you hear bad stories about them, and the only people who can talk is people who knew them intimately, you know. You hear rumours and you hear stories. If you knew the guys, I suppose it was different, but...
I mean, there's the answer when you got buried. Look at the turnout, was like royalty.
Absolutely.
Because in Valence Road, where he lived, they adored them.
East End of London, were well go, weren't they?
Yeah, because they didn't
But all the villains were well guarded.
but never took liberties with the outside world amongst themselves.
Kept it within their fraternity.
Yes, definitely. They wouldn't go to some little street tailor and say, well, you go to work somewhere, say, you know.
For you, that is the story, and that is the story 100%.
100%, yes, and that is authentic. All these, all the painting designs of what they did, what they were going to do. They stayed 3 days, and it was not worth their while to try and take over gambling up here. But they became theatrical agents, as I said.
They got more money in the nick, didn't they?
Of course they did.
As far as I know.
They became theatrical agents by putting acts in La Dolce Vita and charging, it was just on £500 for a £50 act.
They were men of the time, weren't they? That's it, you know, which is nice, I suppose. Men of the time, you know.
Yeah. But the boys who owned La Dolce Vita, they were lovely men.
The Levies.
Lovely guys, beautiful guys. And I mean, if you saw the letters from all the big stars from America, all over the place, that they used to get, they got a present of a big silver cigar box from Diana Dawes. They got Dick Haynes give them gold cufflinks before he left.
Yeah, Dick Haynes, yeah.
And said to the best club owners in the world.
Judy Garland, she knew them, wasn't she?
Yeah, but Judy never came over here.
Did she not?
No, she went to London, played at the venue, didn't come up here and work the clubs. No. But Billy Daniels, who they're very interested in, well, he was one of the chaps. Billy only wanted to be with the boys, you know.
A lot of those entertainers did like to be with
Of course they did, because they had to be, actually, if you want to know the truth.
Same in America, wasn't
Yes.
it? Smithy, you got him?
Are you happy with that? I think
Very
we've got
happy.
some great